Today we are going to talk about safety. Earlier on in the other topic, we talked about hygiene, and we do hygiene because we want to take precaution for safety. Okay, making sure that we take care of ourselves. So safety is also paramount. We make sure that we take care of ourselves as we are working in the kitchen. So you note that the kitchen and these equipments, you need to use them to be able to work efficiently. So you also need to know how to use these equipments, and also get to know how to even take care of yourself so that you do not cause harm to yourself. So also the company or the organization that has employed you also has to put safety measures to ensure that also the employees who are working in such an area, they are well protected. So you'll notice that the employees need education, and that's why maybe you are here learning about safety and how you need to take care of yourself. So when you go to the industry, you're also aware that safety is part of your responsibility. Okay, so no one will come and tell you this is the way you are supposed to hold a knife, or this is, you should have learned this when you're going to your industry, so that at least to prevent a lot of harm on your side. So it is quite important for also the employees and the employers to be able to comply to the health and safety regulations that have been put there for them. And you'll notice also it is under the Constitution when it talks about restaurants and hotels, how they should be able to ensure that there is safety. Okay, also that the workers who are working in the industry are also have good health for them to be able to work in such an environment. So I want us to talk maybe about most common accidents that happen in the kitchen. These are the most common accidents. So we have here, I've already highlighted them for you. So you see we have let's see, I don't know whether you can see the four of the points are the ones that are most common accidents. Like for example, the cuts, we have the burns, we have the falls, and fire. Okay, so these are some of the accidents that commonly can happen in the kitchen, because if it is the cuts, we are talking about the knives, we are talking about maybe some of the machines that you might use. If it is the burns, we are talking about when you're cooking, maybe the spillage and so on. If it is the falls, you can be able to slip, or maybe if it is a wet floor, you can slip on the wet floor and fall and harm yourself. If it is the fire, of course we are dealing with fire in the kitchen, so fire accidents can as well happen. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we are aware of these accidents that happen, and I think I'll touch on each and every accident. So for example, when you're talking about cuts, of course, this one is basically maybe from knives. Okay, mostly from the knives. Even at home, you'll notice that you need to take care of yourself. Even when you're chopping the kales or the spinach, you need to make sure that at least you protect your fingers. And when you are going to do our practicals, you also note some of the techniques that we have to use to ensure that you are also protecting your fingers. Remember that when you're working in a busy kitchen, you'll find yourself, working at a speed, okay? So you don't expect, for example, if you're working maybe in the vegetable section, entremetier, then you are supposed to, to work efficiently, okay? Maybe you find yourself, you're one or two people who are working there, and you have a whole, a lot of kales that you're supposed to chop, or you have spinach, you have, a lot of vegetables. So you also need to master the art of also trying to be fast enough. And so if you are also supposed to be fast enough, then you are also supposed to ensure that you are also protecting yourself. Otherwise, you'll end up chopping on your fingers, and we do not want that to happen. So the techniques that you'll be able to be equipped with during your practicals will enhance you to be able to work efficiently, especially maybe with handling of the knives and so on. So that's one way in which you can be able to maybe get yourself hurt, maybe if you do not use the knife properly. And also, if you put knives in the sinks, okay? So some people just, throw knives, and then maybe the sink is blocked. So we can all relate to this when the sink has blocked and you keep on, opening the tap, the water fills it, and so maybe the water is a bit cloudy. And when the next person tries, maybe, for example, to unblock the sink, they might not know exactly what is in the sink. And you will find that maybe, for instance, the knives are there. So you should at least take precautions, okay? Try at least to check, maybe try to start maybe with a different equipment to see whether maybe there are knives, so that at least you do not end up hurting yourself. And other cutting blades, like for example, maybe the slicers, okay? So you'll find that, for example, if you do not know how to use maybe a bread slicer and so on, you will end up cutting yourself, okay? So you are supposed to be able to be sure, if you do not know how to use maybe this cutting equipment, make sure that you ask first. Do not use cutting equipments if you do not know how to use them. Otherwise, you will end up hurting yourself and don't, getting the job done. So how are we supposed to prevent this? We are supposed to ensure that all the time use sharp knives. Sharp knives enhance, efficiency. And also you can just try to imagine when you are using a blunt knife versus, using a sharp knife, okay? It is even easier to hurt yourself with a blunt knife and using a sharp knife. So all the time ensure that the knife is sharp enough, so that at least you do not just, maybe for example, you are trying to cut and it bends over and cuts you badly. So ensure that the knives are sharpened all the time. And always, it is important to know, if you're working in the kitchen, the knives should not be put in the washing up sinks, okay? So do not put knives, okay? So we have said that the knife should be sharpened, okay? So you can imagine if you are putting it in the wash up, and the next person who is coming up, they do not know whether they are in the wash up. So there is this habit whereby, you keep on throwing, if it is the spoon, you throw it in the sink, you keep on throwing these things in the sinks, but you are not aware that the next person might not know whether they are, these equipments that have been put inside the sink. So it is part of your responsibility. If you are working in a professional kitchen, you also act professionally, act like someone who is learned, and put equipment the way they are supposed to be placed. So, and also use the correct knives for the appropriate job. Okay, so you'll find that there are several types of knives. Okay, there's a butcher knife, there's a serrated kind of knife for cutting bread and so on. So all these knives have different functions. So it is your responsibility to be able to know this knife is used for this purpose. So do not use a wrong knife for a wrong job, because at the end of the day, you will end up hurting yourself because that knife was not meant to be used in such a manner. So make sure that the knives are handled properly, and always we place the knife flat on the board. Okay, and also the way we carry our knives. I don't know, most of the times in the kitchen I notice maybe a lot of students, just you end up even pointing. Maybe, for example, you're talking to your colleague in the kitchen and you busy pointing a knife towards them. Even the way you are walking through the kitchen, the knife, you are holding it the wrong position. So the knife should always be held downwards. Okay, the knife should be held pointing downwards, especially the sharp point should always be pointing downwards. So those are some of the precautions that you should ensure so that you avoid cuts in the kitchen. So we go to the next one, the burns. The burns, of course, we get them by, touching maybe hot appliances. Okay, like for example, you are handling, maybe you are cooking food and maybe you did not know that, the cooking pot was hot, and you end up touching that cooking pot. The end result, of course, you're going to burn yourself. Okay, that is automatic that you're going to burn yourself. And also, maybe the burns, for example, the hot oil. Okay, so maybe, for example, you are deep frying chicken or you are deep frying French fries. So if you pour them with water, okay, it is watery, and of course we have to ensure that the oil is at a certain degrees. Okay, should be very hot when you're deep frying. So if you just pour without minding whether you are pouring also with water, what do you expect? Of course the oil will always come up, and you're going to be a victim. Okay, so you're going to get actually very bad burns. So you have to make sure that you take precautions, especially if you are in the deep frying area. And also the burns, you can get them maybe, for example, wrong use of the pressure cooker. Okay, a lot of people, don't know how to use the pressure cooker. It is quite important also to note that you just don't, open the pressure cooker, immediately. Okay, so you have removed it from the stove, and you are just opening it just like that without removing the steam first. So definitely it will burn you badly. So ensure that you know how to use. If it is the pressure cooker, know how to use. Okay, so if you are dealing with oil, make sure that prevent pouring oil and water at the same time, so that these burns they do not get to you. So maybe we talk about also the falls. Falls are a bit common in the kitchen, and that's why I emphasize on the use of proper shoes. Okay, proper footwears, because if you do not use the proper footwear, then definitely you will end up hurting yourself. Because you can just imagine, for example, someone was carrying maybe some pots full of hot soup, okay? So they are carrying hot soup, and maybe some of it maybe poured by accident, and you are just walking, anyhowly, okay? You are not minding. Some of you don't even look down. Most of the times when we walk, we don't concentrate looking down. So what if you're wearing the wrong type of footwear? Okay, so definitely whatever you are carrying, you will end up falling and hurting yourself badly. So you don't want to find yourself in such a situation, because you don't know what you're going even to fall. When you're falling, what you are going to fall onto. Okay, maybe you will fall onto a hard metal and you end up breaking your backbone. So it is important for you to get to know that take precautions, especially in the kitchen. A lot of spillage can happen, and also know that you are required to wear the right footwear. So most of the times when we tell you, this is the correct type of shoe to buy, you feel like maybe we are unfair to you, because maybe the cost is not, you cannot be able to manage to buy that shoe because of, for example, it is a bit expensive. But at the end of the day, it is about your safety. Okay, so if you come to my practicals and I throw you out because of the shoes, it's just not because I do not want you to do the practicals, but it is because I want you to learn the importance of safety. Okay, it is not only in your practicals, but you will carry it through also in the industry, because you're going to work there. And if you're working there, then that's where your career has started. Okay, so you do not want to, all the time you're in hospitals because, you slept and you hurt yourself badly. You end up even not doing your job. Okay, so make sure that also make sure that you are also careful about, maybe, for example, if the floors are uneven, you make sure that you alert also the supervisor who is in charge. Let them know what maybe obstacles are there. Let them know that maybe, for example, the floor is maybe the floor is wet. Okay, so if maybe, for example, you have a kitchen steward who normally comes to clean the floors and so on, make sure you call for them. Okay, so if you have made, take it as a personal responsibility. If you know that you have spilled some soup, kindly ensure that you have alerted the kitchen steward, so that they come wipe it, so that the next person should not fall because of your mistake. So make sure that at least if maybe, for example, you do not have the kitchen stewards, it is your responsibility to make sure, if you have removed the soup, placed it on the right place, go and get the mop and mop that place, so that you avoid accidents. So you should not punish the next person because of your mistake, because at the end of the day, you'll find yourself that you will be the same person who will fall. Okay, so you think that you're doing it for the next person, but maybe it is you who is going to fall because of that incident. So take it as a responsibility. Make sure that the right people who are supposed to clean are informed, or you take that initiative and clean it yourself. Okay, so you have to clean. You have to apply the rule of clean as you go, so that you ensure that everything is taken well off. Okay, so, and most of the times the falls sometimes are caused by maybe the kitchen not having two types of exits, especially the exit and the entrance. Most of the professional kitchens, they should be having two doors, okay? One of it is an entrance, the other one is an exit, because at the end of the day, people need to be educated that you should be, if you're getting out of the kitchen, this is the way you this is the door, and the door should also be marked. This is the entrance and this is the exit, so that the people who are coming in and the people who are getting out, they should not, collide together. Okay, so you can imagine if it is the same door you are using and you are carrying maybe a hot maybe a chafing dish. Maybe it is a buffet and you're carrying a chafing dish full of, maybe for example, a soup. Then you can imagine if the other person is in a hurry and also carrying a lot of equipment, and you open the door and both of you collide together. So you have to also ensure that also the kitchen you're working in also has the two doors, to ensure that you have an exit and an entrance, to ensure that the people who are coming in and going out do not collide together, so that you avoid falls. Okay, so they can be harmful and dangerous, and sometimes they can even lead to death. Okay, so whatever you fall onto can be maybe something dangerous, and you keep on, you hit the head and definitely you collapse there and end up dead. Okay, so you have to ensure that you're taking a personal responsibility. Do not wait for the other person to do it for you. Do it uh, do it for yourself, because you can be the next victim. So I think we can go ahead and talk about this common one, very common one, which is fire. Okay, fire accidents happen a lot of times, especially in the kitchen, because we cannot avoid, fire, because we cook using fire. Okay, and we use different types of fuel. Okay, we use electricity, we use LPG gas, we use, we can use charcoal, we can use, it depends with the establishment and which type of fuel they want to use. But at the end of the day, you want fire so that you can facilitate the cooking. So you have to make sure that you also know how to handle these types of fire. Okay. So these types of fire, of course, can result from maybe a most common one is maybe electricity. Okay. So electricity appliances maybe can go wrong, and you find yourself maybe catching fire. So, and sometimes they can be a gas explosion. Okay, so you are working with gas and you don't make sure that it is well tied up, and you don't even ensure that it is, properly lighting. You can't even smell that there's leakage and so on. At the end of the day, it will have an explosion. So you also need to know how to use gas, how to use the gas. So it is not an assumption that everyone knows how to use gas, but you also make sure that you are also educated. Each and every establishment, they use different types of gases. So if you feel like the type of gas they are using, you are not well versed with it, do not pretend. Asking does not make you, look stupid. Okay, it helps you. It will help you in one way or another. Nobody can fire you because you asked a question on how to use a certain equipment, or use a certain maybe item. But when a mistake happens and you ended up not even asking how it was used, then there is a big problem. Okay, so ensure that you ask as many questions as possible. And I assume that each and every establishment, when you get a job, okay, when you get a job, there should be an orientation. Okay, maybe you can be taken through the whole establishment, and the department which you are working in, you also need to be done a lot of orientation. And if you discover that this a certain equipment that you are not well explained to, please ensure that you are asking the person who has been there, for a long time, or who is used to using that type of equipment, before even you put your own knowledge on it. Okay, so because I emphasize that these types of equipments, they are designed differently. They can't be the same. Like, for example, if you're using maybe, for example, an oven, we have different types of ovens. Okay, and they work differently. So even though they do the same job, but they also work differently. Okay, so if they work differently, then you should also make sure that do not put your own expertise the way you assume the other one was working, so the other one is going to work the same way. Okay, so it is also important for you to also ask. It doesn't mean that you do not know, but you just need to increase your knowledge on how you are going to use the next, that equipment. So ask if you feel like that equipment is new to you. So do not use an equipment that you feel like is, it has maybe different temperatures, it is working, another way, because you will end up causing an accident. Okay, and that accident, you might be the victim. So do not put yourself into such a position. So we have talked about maybe the fires through the maybe electrical appliances. We have talked about maybe the gas explosions, and maybe fire can be through maybe use of oil. Okay, so maybe, for example, you are using maybe a shallow pan. Okay, you're using a shallow pan for deep frying. So what do you expect? Fire is going to catch the oil and so on, and so it will lead to fire. So it is also quite important to know how to prevent the fire in case it happens. Most of the times we have a procedure in how we are supposed to ensure that we take care in terms of fire outbreak. And most of the times is you should first of all ensure that you have read through the fire procedure. Okay, in case of a fire, there is always the procedures which have been written for each and every establishment. So I think when you're working in the kitchen, there is the fire procedures which have been stuck on the wall, or maybe on the board next there, for you to be able to know what to do in case there is fire. Because remember, fire, we have talked about fire being, you catch fire maybe through electrical appliances. We have talked about LPG gas. We have talked about maybe through the fats, that when you are preparing maybe some foods, fire can happen. So you also should know how to put out these types of fire. And I think each and every establishment takes takes each and every employee through a refresher course for you to be able to get to know how to handle fire. Okay, so I think let me check on maybe some of the procedures here. So each and every organization should make sure that there is trainings on the procedure of how to handle fire in case there is an outbreak. So of course the training should include the fire procedures in their own specific area of work. So you should be able to be alerted on maybe the area you are working in. You know, sometimes you'll find that some of the establishments, you'll find that there are departments also which are underground. Okay, some departments even are underground. So if they are underground, in case of a fire, how are you supposed to go about it? Okay, so and also you should be trained on fire drills. Okay, I don't know, there's a time there was a drill in Strathmore, and the students were not alerted on what was happening, and they ended up, injuring themselves badly. So in case maybe there's a training on the fire drill, it is quite important that each and every employee is advised, okay, prior, because you might think that it is serious, and some people can end up jumping off the windows and so on, and they will hurt themselves. So the employee should be able to know, and also if it is necessary, also the customer should be able to know that there is a fire drill. Okay, because this one you also have to do it practically in the industry, so that you see on how how prepared the establishment is. And also there is you should be shown on where the fire exits are located. So each and every establishment should have the fire exits, and you should be able to know where they are, so that in case of fire, where you can be able to exit from, where you are going to assemble, and maybe on the knowledge of how to use the fire extinguishers. And remember that the fire extinguishers are used in relation to each and every type of fire. So you cannot be able to use water, maybe to use water to be able to put off fire. Okay, so if it is water, and maybe the fire was caused by oil, so it doubles. Okay, so you cannot put out fire with water, because it is like it accelerates fire. Okay, so maybe if it is carbon dioxide that you're going to use to put it out, so just know that each and every fire has its own type of fire extinguisher. Okay, and note that also apart from having these fire extinguishers, we also have the fire blanket. Okay, so in case of maybe, for example, you are cooking, and you noted that fire has occurred, you can take the fire blanket and place it on to the item, and the fire goes off. Okay, so unlike using the fire extinguisher, maybe for example the one that has carbon dioxide, and you end up ruining everything in the kitchen. Okay, so just note that there are some fire extinguishers that are not applicable in the kitchen, because remember that in the kitchen we produce food. Okay, so just imagine you are working, and maybe you needed to produce food for 1,000 people, and fire has caught, and you end up using the wrong fire extinguisher. Okay, instead of putting out the fire, it goes on contaminating also all the food that you had prepared. So you have to make sure that the fire extinguisher that is used is the correct type of extinguisher. So most of the time we use the carbon dioxide type of fire extinguisher in the kitchen. So just wanted to guide you through, just in case of fire, what are some of the precautions that you should do. So steps to be taken when there is fire. Number one, you raise the alarm. You ensure that the people, you are informing people about the occurrence of the fire. And number two, you should make sure you do not panic. Okay? Panic, and that's why it is important to be trained on the fire drill, so that you always calm. And number three, use a fire extinguisher. Use the right fire extinguisher to be able to put out that fire in case you know what caused the fire. Okay, so remember that these fire extinguishers are used to put out specific types of fire. Okay, so get to know first of all which type of fire. If you are in a position to put out that fire, you can as well do that. And another thing you should also know is that do not use lifts. Do not use lift. Always use the staircase, because if you use the lift, then people panic differently. The people who panic and they straight away go to the to switch off the electricity. Okay, so what happens if you are in the lift? Okay, so just make sure that you avoid using the lift at all costs. And if you're not in a position to put out the fire, your safety comes first. Okay, so rush to the assembly place and wait for directions. So because the firefighters will always come to be able to control the situation for you. So there are different types of fire extinguishers. As I have noted earlier on, we have water extinguishers. It's normally indicated in red. And we have carbon dioxide extinguishers indicated in black. So basically each and every fire extinguisher, if you can be able to, if you are in a position to check on the fire extinguishers, just you can be able even to read on the directions on it. It is indicated. So they can vary from one place to another, but it is quite important to also read through. Shouldn't be automatic that this fire extinguisher is basically for this one. So make sure that you are able to know how it is normally used. So if it is water extinguishers, they are normally used for fires which are involving maybe wood, paper, or cloth. And if it is the carbon dioxide, which I said that we normally use in the kitchen most of the time, is maybe to put out maybe fire which is caused from oils and fats or paints or solid fuels. Okay, so we use it most commonly because as I said earlier on, the kitchen we prepare food. Okay, so we end up using the wrong type of fire extinguisher. It, you know, it destroys all types of food that we were preparing, and we do not want that. So you have to also make sure that you also get to know the type of extinguisher that is used in your establishment, and in specific the section you are working in. So there are so many fire extinguishers, so many. We have the foam extinguishers, we have the dry powder extinguishers, we have the halons extinguishers, and the fire blanket that I mentioned earlier on, that is used for fires involving burning liquids and clothing. Okay, so most of the time, I don't know if, even if it is at home, okay, people, I don't know whether people are, you know, are more knowledgeable about this, but you find out that maybe there was an explosion and someone is on fire. You end up pouring water on them. Okay, so that is not correct. So just get a blanket. Okay, you can never lack a blanket at home. Just get a blanket and cover them. It puts out fire without a lot of injuries. So also get to know if there is use of fire blankets, get to know them, and so on. So I think that's it about the fire. So I want us to go directly to how generally we can prevent accidents from happening in the kitchen. Okay, so generally, so number one, we have to make sure that we avoid being overtired, and that's why in the industry we have in the industry we normally have shifts. So you are working maybe from the morning till maybe afternoon. Maybe some shifts run from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. They vary. They keep on varying from one establishment to another. So it depends on how the establishment does it. But I don't think it is wise for someone to work on a double shift. Okay, because of the exhaustion, because you have worked for a very long time and you need a bit of rest. So that, you know, some people even sleepwalk. Okay, you are working and your concentration is not there. You just, you know, sleep on your job, and maybe you are operating machineries. So generally, it is not good to be overworked. Okay, so if you're tired, let the manager know, and they can call on someone else to continue, you know, with what you have, with the work that you are doing. Okay, so avoid working while you are tired. And also, concentration is key. Concentration is key. It's important to concentrate on what you are doing. Okay, so sometimes you find that someone is, you know, deep frying, and you are busy using your phone, texting maybe your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your family, and you are at work. Okay, so you cannot do two things at the same time. So if you're doing that work, and most of the time, you know, the industry, they do not require, actually it is even wrong to use your phones when you are on duty. Okay, so you have, first of all, some establishments are even, you know, strict with the usage of phone. We know what phones can do. Okay, you are busy on social media, you are busy texting, and you are operating some machinery, or you are, you know, you are cooking. Your concentration is not on what you are preparing. Your concentration is on the phone. So it is quite important to ensure that you have full concentration when you are preparing the food or when you are operating. machinery. And also avoid running and being in a rush in the kitchen. Okay, we always say hasty, of course. We say be hasty in a moderate way. Just avoid running. Okay, you can walk a bit faster, yes, but avoid running. You will never know the next person you're going to bump into. Okay, so avoid running at all cost. We do not run in the industry. We actually walk in a hasty manner, but we do not run. Avoid shouting. Shouting, we do not shout because there are people who just can't handle noise. Okay, you shout at them and they drop everything they were carrying. Okay, so just to be on a moderate way, we say that we do not want to distract other people. So if you keep on shouting, you are distracting the other people who are working on the other side. They will leave whatever they are doing just to check on who is calling other people so loudly. Okay, so avoid the distraction. We do not shout, we do not make a lot of noise in the industry, and also because of also the guests. Okay, so there are some mannerism that we do not tolerate in the industry at all. So we talk, but in lower tones. So if you want something, you have to go directly to the person, get whatever you wanted, but you do not cross, make noise. And the use of equipment. Generally use equipments when you are authorized to do so. So if you are not in the butcher section, you have no business to use the equipments that are on the butcher section. Okay, unless you are trained to do so. So if, for example, you are maybe in the pastry section, if you do not know how to use the equipments that are there, do not use them. Okay, unless trained you on how to do that. Always make sure that you read the safety procedures at all times. The healthy procedures are always there for you as an employee to know how the establishment deals with each and every situation. They will always have the safety procedures on the notice board for each and every employee, and sometimes they will put them even in your section area. Okay, there are things that we keep on ignoring, but they are very important. Unless these things happen to you, that's when now you think of, by the way, I saw it, but I did not concentrate on how to use it. It doesn't hurt to be able to go through the procedures for your own preparation, just in case anything can happen. So make sure that you have gone through all the safety procedures that have been outlined for you in your establishment. And also the use of protective clothing and the right footwear. Okay, you think that buying a chef's coat is expensive. Wait until hot oil pours on you. That's when you will know that that piece of cloth had its own importance. The moment that you fall in the kitchen and hurt yourself, that's when you'll know that the cost of that shoe was not that expensive compared to how much money you paid in the hospital just to get treated. So take these precautions seriously. Okay, it is your own responsibility to make sure that you have known it. If you go to the industry, make sure that these are the things that you use, so that you protect yourself and protect also your colleagues in the industry. So I think we can end up there unless there is any question.